Hi, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm Diane with South House Designs, and today we're going to be taking these plain white ceramic hearts and turning them into these beautiful decorator artisan pieces that can be used for numerous occasions. Think anything bridal. How about a baby's nursery, a baby shower, anniversary celebrations, of course, Valentine's Day. But you determine the colors, you determine the degree of texture that you give it with this very simple procedure we're doing. So let's get started. But first, could I ask a very big favor of you? I am just getting my YouTube channel started. I am dedicated to it. Would you please hit the subscribe button for me? That would mean a world to me, a big, big help to get me started. Thanks so much. Ready to go? Let's get started. I forgot to mention the Dixie cups. I use them to prop the hearts while I'm painting and for mixing my paints. I like a mottled look, so for my base coat, I started with a generous squirt of my main color in a cup. Then I add a touch of browner version to one side and a little white to the other side. I only swirl briefly so they wouldn't be all mixed into one solid color. I wanted a bit of variety. Then as I spread the paint, if there's too much variation, I just swirl it around on the heart. If needed, a spritz of water will help with the blending. Don't worry about the brush strokes. That will be taken care of in the next layer. And yes, don't forget your edges. Now it's time for the second coat. This is where we start adding texture. In the same cup, I add another squirt of color just to alter it a bit. That's the point of layers of paint. You don't want them all exactly the same or they just disappear. This gives it a little bit more depth and richness. I started with some white to lighten it a bit. That was taking it too baby pink. So I added a bit more orange, mixed it well, and yay, the color is right, but it's a bit too bright. Here's a bit of color theory for you. When mixing paints, if you like the color, but just want to gray it down a bit, reduce its vibrancy, add a bit of whatever is directly across the color wheel at the same level of brightness. My base color is an orangey pink. Directly across would be a pale green leaning towards blue, a pale sage green. Now this time, mix it thoroughly because you won't be able to mix the colors as you apply it because of the texture. Then you add a good spoonful of baking soda. Yep, baking soda straight out of the kitchen. And mix it up, not too much, but so that it incorporates in. And then just dab it on. Here I'm using a regular paintbrush with a pouncing motion. You can also use a regular stencil brush with the same pouncing motion. I find that with the regular paintbrush, I can build up the texture higher. Now I will go back over it with the stencil brush, which has a flat surface, if I've got some area built up too much. It's so forgiving. You just play with it until you get a look you like. Maybe you want yours more flat, maybe you want it to have more peaks. It's really up to you. See how with the stencil brush, you get a more uniform and again, be sure not to forget about the edges. You can use a damp paper towel to smudge some areas and smooth the texture out a bit. And a spritz of water can really help if it's drying out too quickly for you. And here I decided I just wanted a couple of spots where we had some strong texture just here and there. You can let this dry and repeat this step if you want even more texture. But once you have your texture as you like it, immediately sprinkle a generous coating of flour on the wet paint. You do not want the paint to dry before you do this. Then gently pat the flour into the wet paint. You can tap off any excess if you want, or you can leave it sit like that. Let it sit and dry. Once it's dry enough to handle, just flip it over and repeat the texture stage. And then the flowering stage. Once it's completely done, then it's really fun. Grab your chip brush and gently, very gently brush off the flour that is not held with the paint. I think it's such a magical look. I just love it. And one thing to be careful about, make sure you look at the hole, and I used an end of a paintbrush to clean out any flour or paint that clogged it. These are so quick, easy, and inexpensive. I can see them in so many rooms, so many occasions, and so many special events.